If you like what we're talking about, please subscribe, support us. We'd appreciate it. Oliveira, Gamrot, before we get into co-main, any other fights you want to talk about on this card?
Yeah, I brought it up last week about the Walter Walker and Muhammad Usman fight.
Yes.
I thought Walker was going to get that leg lock submission. Well, Usman pulled out, another heavyweight pull out. I don't know what happened, if he failed the drug test or something. I saw some conflicting reports about an injury and then something about a failed drug test. Whatever, cut the guy. He's awful anyway. And they keep doing these Dana White Contender Series, and they did 10 weeks or whatever, and they signed like 40 something fighters. It's like the UFC has like 700 fighters on the roster now. Mm-hmm. And I get they want to do fights every weekend, but I trim it down, for goodness sake. Like, we don't need this slop, to use some video game lingo. We don't need this slop. So cut that guy, cut Justin Tafa. I think he did get cut, but let's start adding them up.
Yeah, we got fighters on you're signing them, get rid of them.
Yeah. The guys who can't make it to a fight because they don't have discipline or they are trying to cheat or whatever, we don't need those guys. So Vicente Luque, Joel Alvarez, didn't get to see the whole fight. Saw there was some controversy. Did see that Alvarez punched Luque and it was called an eye poke, and then Bisping was going back and forth with John Gooden. Like I said, didn't see the whole fight, unfortunately. But Joel Alvarez did get the win. It did break his finish streak, which he was upset about, because technically that punch should have finished the fight because Luque couldn't continue. But bummer for him. Another good win. I was hoping he was going to get his signature victory and people would start to recognize his name a little bit more, but that's not going to be the case. He did move up from lightweight to welterweight, so he's still got a lot of work to do to move up the welterweight rankings.
I just can't help but feel a little bit too, I guess, like, without knowing everything about it, but like, it's almost like the pro wrestling thing. Especially like in a real fight, aren't you just supposed to call what you see? So if it doesn't, you don't actually see an actual eye poke, you know what I mean?
It's hard though. I mean, hands are going in. You can't really see that, but yeah.
So, but whatever decision you go with, if you call it an eye poke, then you have to, I would think, treat it like an eye poke. And unless you're using instant replay and then you see afterwards, that wasn't my bad. Let's go.
Right. They have the ability to like give the replay immediately too.
They do.
So it should be very quick. And, normally if something like that happens, it is pretty quick. This one was, a failure on their part. But co-main event here, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson.
So I was in and out of this fight, but from what I was watching, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I just was kind of bored with this fight.
Yeah, same.
But I just thought Figueiredo shut him down, essentially. Like, Montel couldn't really get his offense going. And it wasn't that I thought Figueiredo was super impressive looking in this fight, but he did enough to win. But it was one of those fights, like if Montel Jackson won, I'd be like, all right, Figueiredo didn't do enough to stop him. You know what I mean? It was just somehow like Figueiredo canceled out Montel Jackson's offense, and it just worked. Whether it was clinching, whether it was just the way he was, his stance, attempting takedowns. He didn't always get them, but just he was doing enough to kind of neutralize them. Figueiredo was obviously overwhelmed with emotion during this. I saw afterwards, looks like he was trying to bring Montel in, and Montel, even before the decision was made, he looked like he wanted none of that. Like, he was being nice about it, but he looked like he wanted none of that.
Yeah, it was a split decision too, so it was a very close fight. But Figgy shows, levels in the game. He's 37 also, so at bantamweight, that's ridiculous. You might as well be a mummy, like ancient. So, I just sort of felt like Jackson wasn't aggressive enough, like he wasn't pressing his game enough. Which, credit to Figgy for kind of stopping that, but that's what caught him. It's a big setback for him because this was going to, get him 1 or 2 away from a potential title shot. So I'm not sure what's next for the guy.
No. I was actually wondering if Figgy ever fought Umar just because of his style and stuff, with the submission.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. That might be an interesting fight. I wouldn't bet against Umar, obviously. I think he's probably, arguably top 3, obviously behind Merab, and then there's this, little pack. But I guess stylistically, Figueiredo could be an interesting matchup for him just because of his Brazilian jiu-jitsu game.
How about, so Bryce Mitchell just moved down to bantamweight. How about Bryce Mitchell and Figgy? That'd be fun.
That probably makes more sense, honestly. A little wrestling and probably be closer. Yeah, I'd be down with that. Absolutely.
Main event. Everyone went to bed happy. Charles Oliveira, well, except for Gamrot. Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot.
So I watched this one a little late, and it wasn't technically spoiled for me, but I just saw like interviews with Charles afterwards, and I got the vibe in our group chat. I could see people were happy. So I was like, I kind of know what probably happened here. And so then I started it, and the way ESPN has it broken down, after you watch it, if you just want to watch the one fight, you can see it's only like 15, 20 minutes long, plus induction. I'm like, okay, this is not going the distance either.
The little thumbnails like always show you who won also.
Not always, but yeah, you're right. And I actually, now you mention it, I think that might have actually did ruin that. But I was already, in my mind, I knew it was going to happen. But I didn't care because I wanted to see it, and I knew it was probably a finish. And Charles is, generally Charles is such an exciting fighter. Like, even if I don't want to see the guy get knocked out, but I'm just saying, like, he is a fighter that's probably either going to get finished or finish somebody, and it's going to be an exciting fight. And this was no exception. Like, he just brought it. Like, he put that pace right on Gamrot right away. Yeah, it was interesting because I'm watching and I'm thinking, like, is he going to beat him with strikes here? Or, and then I thought, yeah, remember you talking about Gamrot's wrestling? And I was like, okay, we'll see. But it's like, no. Like, Charles, like, he was able to get his back a couple times here before finally getting the rear naked choke in round 2. And I just thought, man, like, Charles is just such a beast on the ground. And that knockout he had lost to Ilya, I don't feel like it affected him at all. Impressive win. I'll let you give your thoughts about it, but I think we both know where we think this is going next.
Yeah. So first off, respect to Gamrot for taking the fight. He took it on short notice. He flies to Brazil and fights the most prolific finisher in UFC history. So he came up short, obviously, but he'll be back. Hopefully he doesn't beat himself up too much about that one. So, and for Charles, he stacks another finish onto his record while he's at home in Brazil, where he looks like a king, So it was great. My wife is a huge Charles Oliveira fan, so she even came out of retirement to watch this fight. She has not been watching UFC lately, so very excited that Charles won that one. So. And as far as the fight went, he never really looked in trouble.
No.
Gamrot did go for the takedown early, but Charles he looked confident on the ground. He was locking in that omoplata, wrapping around the leg and everything. And on the feet, Gamrot did land a few good shots on Charles, but he was always just pressing forward and going after him. So I guess next for Charles, obviously he called out Max for the BMF title.
I think it's a fight everybody wants to see because they're just two of the most beloved, most exciting fighters. Similar to Holloway and Poirier and Holloway and Gaethje. Max kind of finds himself in the situation where, because he's so beloved, he ends up fighting these other exciting, beloved fighters. And this is probably one that's overdue, honestly. Like, also, I do want to say you probably he's just a god down in Brazil. Like, it's just the emotion of seeing that guy go into the crowd after he wins. It's it's wild.
He's like the new Jose Aldo, who did get I don't know if you saw, he got a run in and into the cage by himself and got to lay down the gloves in the octagon again. And just the whole stadium was just chanting his name, and he was in there with his family. He was emotional. So that was cool of the UFC to do. Yeah.
Before we get on the next card, I do want to say one more thing about Holloway and Oliveira. If it does happen, it's definitely a situation where Max takedown defense, like not getting to the ground, to me is going to be really key in that fight if you're a Max fan in that one. Because on the feet, I feel like it's even money. Like either one of those guys, could beat each other. But obviously, Charles' submission game is so good. But Max has never been submitted ever. And it's like, man, I'm so intrigued by that fight if we get that, just to see what would happen.
Well, they did fight before at featherweight, if you remembered, but that was, Charles got hit in the neck or had some sort of neck injury, and that was a different Charles.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, and it was
a different Max also, because lightweight Max has power. So, both guys have power. So it is a very interesting fight. I love Charles, but I cannot go against Max in any fight. So obviously I'm rooting for him. There'll be a divided household here at my house. So.